I'm telling you, the American Heart Association has been co-opted by the food
Everybody
industry.
but you, Senator. But you know what? When you ran for president, you received $300,000 from people, not from the industry, people in it, as I did, from individuals. You corrupt.
You're the Secretary of Health and Human Services. You don't have any idea how many Americans died from COVID?
This is the same person that less than a month earlier, you stood next to her and described her as unimpeachable. And you had full confidence in her, and that you had full confidence in her scientific credentials. And in a month, she became a liar?
Well, that was Health and Human Services Secretary RFK Jr. and a whole bunch of senators during an oversight hearing today. But while our elected officials are absolutely furious with RFK Jr., there is some pretty stunning polling that has revealed that RFK Jr. is actually the most popular member of the Trump administration, which, to be quite frank, is a low bar, and we'll show you what we mean by that. But before we do, I think it's important to talk a little bit about the context here and what has happened over at the CDC, because RFK Jr. has in fact been under scrutiny after he ousted a woman by the name of Susan Menares, the director of the CDC. He did so last week. Now, today, she published an op-ed for the Wall Street Journal, of all places, explaining her side of the story, writing that reporters have focused on the August 25th meeting where my boss, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., pressured me to resign or face termination. One of the troubling directives from the meeting more than a week ago, I was told to pre-approve the recommendations of a vaccine advisory panel newly filled with people who have publicly expressed anti-vaccine rhetoric. Vaccines have saved millions of lives under administrations of both parties. Parents deserve a CDC that they can trust to put children above politics, evidence above ideology, and facts above fear. I was fired for holding that line. Now, RFK Jr. has denied having conversations with her, basically pressuring her to resign, says that he never even met with her privately. I don't know. Why else would she resign out of nowhere? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
No, of course he's lying. This is not a close call. So, look, RFK Jr. could have done some good in the world.
Yeah, it's true.
He could have come in and he has this anti-establishment credibility still to this day that allows him to poll a little bit better than the rest of the Trump administration, which again, we're gonna show you in a minute. And he could have used it to go after Big Pharma. He could have said, hey, why are we not allowed to negotiate drug prices? If he got to a point where he could negotiate drug prices on behalf of Medicare, he would save Americans trillions of dollars. And he would be a hero and they would build statues of him, right? Let alone taking on the big food is another giant lobbying group, believe it or not, in Washington. And high fructose corn syrup, why do we have that? That makes us much more obese than any other country, and it's because of farm subsidies. If he tackled those things, he could have been super popular. There's a lot that we don't trust about the drug companies in this country. But instead, he decided to go on his own personal crusade. Okay, fine, you wanna go on a crusade about anti-vaccine. First of all, obviously you lied during your confirmation hearings, but anyone who isn't an idiot knew you were lying and that you were gonna go on an anti-vaccine crusade, and you are now. Okay, that's all fine. But then you've been asking for an opportunity to prove your case this entire time. Now you're in the cabinet, you're the head of Health and Human Services. Prove your case. This is not proving your case. This is the exact opposite. Oh, I brought in a bunch of quacks. Now, real scientists, real doctor, you have to say that they're right. But they're not right. Okay, then have them, remember how RFK Jr. wanted a debate on this? Then have them do a debate. Have them present evidence. But you didn't ask for any evidence. Instead, once she objected to their quackery, boom, you're fired. Get out of here, right? So you were never interested in evidence. You were never interested in holding anyone accountable. You were just on your stupid own personal crusade.
Yeah, exactly. I'm actually gonna wanna go to the Elizabeth Warren video, so let's grab that. But before we do, I'm gonna go to the Bernie Sanders video. Now, I just wanna note that the pressure that RFK Jr. is facing, the criticism, the backlash, isn't simply coming from Democratic senators. It's also coming from Republican senators. In fact, I'm going to read you a few of their quotes, starting with Senator Tom Tillis, Republican from North Carolina, who says, "I need to know why his words in his confirmation hearing aren't matching up with some of the deeds." Which, to be fair to RFK Jr., is consistent with most appointees and people who've been nominated.
Yeah, can these senators and the media stop pretending that anyone is telling the truth during confirmation hearings?
They all lie.
They're all, left, right, Democrat, Republican, doesn't matter. They're all lie to get confirmed. I don't believe a word that they say.
100%. Now, Senator John Kennedy also weighed in saying, "I want the chaos to stop. You can't have the institution of public health in turmoil." Well, I've got news for you. Turns out that the entirety of our government right now is chaos. The country is chaos right now. Okay, so with that in mind, let's go to some highlights or lowlights, however you want to refer to them, in this hearing that happened today. I want to start off with Senator Sanders because the topic of corruption came up, and I think that's an important topic. And I think my opinion of how this all went down, this exchange, might surprise you. So let's take a look.
There's a big difference, Senator, between established science and the scientific establishment, which has been co-opted by the pharmaceutical industry.
So you're telling the American people that the American Medical Association, representing hundreds of thousands of people, have been co-opted and that they should not trust their doctors.
And I'm
the American Academy of Pediatrics, and by the way, just for the record, every single Republican, I don't mean to be political here, Mr. Chairman, has received PAC money from the pharmaceutical industry. Are they all corrupt as well?
And I'm telling you, the American Heart Association has been co-opted by the food
Everybody
industry.
but you, Senator. But you know what? When you ran for president, we have a corrupt campaign finance system. Maybe you will agree with me on that. Okay, you were already president, you got a billionaire behind it. You received $300,000 from people, not from the industry, people in it, as I did, from individuals. You corrupt. President Trump got $3 million.
So there's a lot I like about what Senator Sanders is saying there because I agree with the points he's making about corruption. However, there's a weird inconsistency in his rant that I don't really understand. There is a problem with our medical system being corrupted. And what I mean by that is, we just had the opioid epidemic. The opioid epidemic, for that to even happen, relied on the Sackler family, right? The pharmaceutical companies, engaging in corruption with the doctors.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is a problem. Look, there's a lot of distrust. There is a lot of distrust toward the vaccines. There's a lot of distrust toward doctors and the entirety of our healthcare system. And I actually feel a lot of empathy for Americans because how can you trust it? There is corruption. This is what happens with money in politics. This is what happens when you allow corruption to fester in every single governmental institution, in every institution, period. You don't know what to trust. And so I don't know. I don't know what the solution is here, Cenk, because I don't blame Americans for how they feel. But at the same time, if you don't vaccinate your kids when it comes to really important vaccines, whether it's measles, polio, stuff like that, you are putting your child at risk. You are bringing back these illnesses that we had eradicated.
So look, Bernie did a great job of challenging him, but yeah, there was some conflicting stuff in there. And I know why he's doing it, because last time RFK Jr. challenged him about the money that he took from the healthcare industry, and a lot of right-wingers, et cetera, went nuts about that. But he didn't take it from corporate PACs, he didn't take it from the industry. What he was pointing out is he took it from people who happen to be employed in healthcare. Same thing for RFK Jr. RFK Jr. was not corrupted in that, and that was part of the point that Bernie was making. He's right about that, because those were individual donors, again, that happened to work in that industry, not executives, not PACs, et cetera, but for both of them, for Bernie and RFK Jr. Now, having said that, he went too far when he started saying, how about all the Republican senators? The Republican senators that do take money from the actual industry and the corporate PACs, by the way, also the Democratic senators, are guilty. They are corrupt, right? So, and that gets to the fundamental frustration here that a lot of us feel, which is that if you say, hey, our institutions are lying to us, overall you are correct. And all the politicians and all the media say, oh, no, our institutions are great. They would never lie to you. That did not come from the Wuhan lab, virology lab. It came right outside its door from a penguin or a pangolin or a tiger or a bear.
There were so many lies. There were so many lies during the pandemic, guys. We all know it now, right? And so when people want to get mad at parents who are like scared of vaccines now. But don't get mad at them. Get mad at how corrupt our system is to the point where people don't know what to trust. And they're thinking about their literal children and what's best for them. They're not like conspiring to get people sick.
Yeah.
There's something broken in our country and that needs to be fixed.
So that one extreme is the establishment saying nothing to see here. The drug companies are angels, the government is angels, the politicians are angels. All the money they're exchanging is just for fun. Okay, that's absurd, extreme. Okay, that's what the powerful say. Now, on the other hand, RFK Jr. at this point is saying almost all the doctors in the country and almost all the scientists in the country are all lying in mass. But that doesn't make sense. If you show me doctors that went to a junket and then pushed opioids, yeah, I see that corruption. They're bringing him to Vegas, they're bringing him on trips. You see money exchange, that is clear, right? But why would a rando doctor in the middle of Iowa or Nebraska or Hawaii, but not just one or two of them, but all of them, right? All be part of a global doctor conspiracy. No, that makes no sense at all. So when he attacks the entire American Medical Association, including all the doctors in it, no, that's conspiratorial junk. And so look, we've already had a little bit of a measles outbreak. I'm not minimizing it, it's already terrible, but it's not thousands of people, right? If you keep messing around with vaccines, at some point, something's gonna break out, okay? And then we're not gonna be able to reel it back in easily or quickly.
Yeah.
And then you got another disaster on your hands. And then again, it's man-made. There was no need for it. Like the famine in Gaza is not a natural famine, it's man-made, right? This is going to be another man-made disaster because of politics and kookiness. When if they just actually took on the establishment, and they actually, if RFK Jr. came out with a little like presentation and said, here's how much money that Democratic senator and that Republican senator took from Big Pharma, and that's why we can't negotiate drug prices, or that's why they're doing this or that wrong, he'd be a rock star.
100%.
Washington would hate him and the country would love him. But he's not doing that. Instead, he's doing his own personal weirdo stuff.
So I do want to go to this exchange with Senator Elizabeth Warren because she does call him out on changing the recommendation for the COVID booster shots and the COVID vaccine. So let's take a quick look at that.
Last week, you announced that the COVID-19 vaccine is no longer approved for healthy people under the age of 65. In announcing the change, you said the vaccine will be available for anyone who wants it. Now, obviously, both things cannot be true at the same moment. Will you tell America that all adults and all children over 6 months of age are eligible to get a COVID booster at their local pharmacy today?
Anybody can get the booster.
I'm sorry?
Anybody can get it, Senator.
Anybody. So you're saying that is now the official rule of HHS. Anybody is eligible to get a booster by just walking into the pharmacy.
It's not recommended for healthy people.
No. If you don't recommend, then the consequence of that in many states is that you can't walk into a pharmacy and get one. It means insurance companies don't have to cover the $200 or so cost.
We're not going to recommend a product for which there's no clinical data for that indication. Is that what I should be doing?
Okay, so I think that the questions Senator Warren was asking there were important. I didn't know what the distinction was, right? So she is right about that. So once, you have the recommendations for the COVID vaccine change or any vaccine change, well then people who need that vaccine or seek that vaccine are gonna have to jump through extra hoops. It's gonna be costlier because of the insurance issue. Insurance looks for reasons to not cover things. So if they can cite what's going down in our health department and say, well, it's not recommended, so we don't have to pay for it, that's gonna be an issue for people who are gonna wanna get the boosters, right? So I don't have anything else to add to that other than, she's raising a really important point here, and I don't think most Americans realize, how his recommendations or the CDC's recommendations have an impact on the accessibility of certain vaccines.
Yeah, I don't know who to trust anymore. That's why my default is I trust the doctors and the scientists, okay? I don't trust necessarily leaders, because some of the leadership unfortunately lied to us about masks and the virology lab, etc. But when the great majority of the doctors and scientists say something, they are much more likely to be right than Rando Bob on Facebook, okay? Yeah. So now we did promise this to you, so we got to show you the Harry Anton revealing the poll about Kennedy, and this is a bit shocking, so let's watch.
RFK Jr. ain't exactly popular, but he's the most popular of all the key officials that we have recent polling on. Pete Hegseth, his net favorable -14 points. JD Vance, -11. Marco Rubio, -10. RFK Jr. is at -7. Vax kids against infectious diseases. The government should require it. You go back to 1991, it was 81%, okay? Then we go to 2019 at 62%. Look at where that number fell to by 2024. It was just 51%. That is a 30-point drop. This, to me, if you're a public health official, this is perhaps the most worrying statistic that you should see. Look at this. Look at this. How well masks and vaccines limit COVID. Public health officials lied. They lied. In 2022, it was 45%. Look at where that number is now, 55%.
We've lost faith in our institutions.
100%.
And we're not going to get it back with the same old lies that you see from the establishment. And we're also not going to get it back through quackery. We have to actually go back to facts and evidence. So guys, last thing is, and I'm going to tell you why I think that poll came out the way that it did, but we're asking you in our poll on tyt.com, who's the Trump official you're most concerned about? RFK Jr., that he came in #1 today, but the voting continues on tyt.com. Pete Hegseth, Marco Rubio, or Tulsi Gabbard. I think there's good reasons to be concerned about all of them. Why do I think that RFK Jr. did better than others? Again, he's -7. It's not like he's shining city on a hill, right? It's because the others are disastrous and feel like they're more establishment and violating the things that they promised earlier. Like Hegseth has been, they were supposed to be anti-war, and Hegseth seems to be pushing towards more war. Marco Rubio, same thing, very establishment. Doesn't seem to be representing America, etc. RFK Jr. seemed the least establishment and hence had more independent support and more grassroots support. But I don't know how long that'll hold as he keeps going here, because firing the actual scientist is a disastrous idea. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.